Report, featuring an exclusive interview with Malcolm X, official spokesman for the black Muslims and minister of Muhammad Mosque No. 7 in New York's Harlem District.
This is Matthew Warren, Mel LaPlante, reporter for WMAL News. And to bring you the story of the black Muslims, we've gone on location to New York City, headquarters of Minister Malcolm X. This restaurant is Temple No. 7, one of the representative spots for the black Muslim religion. Mel, suppose we go inside and talk with Minister Malcolm X.
Fine, he's waiting for us, man.
Right. Our exclusive, uninterrupted interview with Minister Malcolm X follows this message.
How are you, sir? Very good, sir.
Nice to see you.
Yes, sir. Won't you be seated?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Minister Malcolm X, we want to thank you for permitting us to come in to film you and to talk with you today about the black Muslims. It's a little bit unusual to come in and find you in a restaurant for your office. Is this your headquarters?
Well, here in Harlem, this Temple No. 7 restaurant is where most of the Muslims come, and not only the Muslims, but the so-called Negroes, period, who think like we do.
Well, that's what we want to find out. What makes you think as you do, and just what you do think?
Well, we think according to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and we act according to that which he has taught us.
Now, who is Elijah Muhammad?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the spiritual head of the Muslims in this country, the fastest growing group of black people in the Western Hemisphere who have accepted the religion of Islam.
You mean Negroes?
So-called Negroes.
What's the difference?
Well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that actually our people are not Negroes, but this is a term that was applied to us during slavery by the slave master. It carries with it a stigma. It doesn't mean black. It means something that is neutral or neuter or dead, that which is not attached to anything. It's just cut off from its own kind, from its past, from its history, from its culture, and it usually ends up being discriminated and mistreated.
Minister Malcolm, your movement has been variously described as a hate organization, race bigot. How would you define the black Muslim movement?
Well, the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad believe in the religion of Islam, which means we believe in complete submission to one God whose proper name is Allah. And he teaches us that the religion of Islam was the religion taught by all of the prophets in the past, which means that Moses was a Muslim, Abraham was a Muslim, to us, Jesus was a Muslim, Muhammad was a Muslim. We believe in all of them, and we practice the religion that they taught.
Do you believe the black man is superior?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the black man is closer to God and is actually superior, physiologically, psychologically, socially, and numerically, and otherwise.
It seems to me if the black man is superior, that how is he in this predicament today of being inferior?
Well,
if he is superior, how does he assert his superiority?
You have to know the history of the black man in America and the length to which the white man went to bring us down to the level that we're on today. Scientifically, what he did to bring us down to the level that we're on today. Many so-called Negroes in this country don't realize that at the time the black man was kidnapped and taken from Africa, the culture and civilization in Africa was at a higher level then than the culture and civilization of Europe. Europe had just come out of the Dark Ages. She was just experiencing the Renaissance. She had just been exposed to the superior culture of Africa and Asia, which awakened her. And because we were brought here and stripped of our knowledge, the knowledge that we had at that time, most Negroes today think that we were brought out of the jungle, we were savages, we were cannibals, and now they think that they are being given an opportunity to stay here in the land where they were enslaved, rather than be incentive to try and reach the level that they were on prior to coming here as slaves.
How will this particular religion then bring you out of this dilemma?
Well, the religion of Islam, as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, eliminates drunkenness, it eliminates dope addiction, it eliminates vice and immorality. And once the morals or the high degree of immorality that afflicts the so-called Negro community is eliminated, then the thinking of the Negro is elevated. His thoughts of himself are elevated. He has more self-confidence, race confidence, and he has a tendency to stick together and solve his own problems instead of trying to force himself upon the white man and force the white man to solve our problems for us.
Do the members have to take a pledge they won't smoke or drink or engage in any immoral acts?
No, a Muslim doesn't have to take any kind of pledge. Once he becomes a Muslim, he bears witness that there's no God but Allah and that Muhammad is the apostle of Allah, and he follows the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and carries it into practice. He does this voluntarily. He's not forced to stop smoking or forced to stop drinking. We teach him. Mr. Muhammad teaches us what detriment smoking is, what detriment narcotics are to the Negro, and once he knows the detrimental effects of these things, he automatically, voluntarily abstains from them himself, and he becomes a better person.
In the January 31st issue of Muhammad Speaks, and I believe this is your official publication, is it not, sir?
This is put out
the movement.
Yes, sir, definitely.
There's a book review, Negro with Guns, by Robert F. Williams, and he says that the philosophy of Martin Luther King, that is nonviolence, passive resistance, is a racist philosophy. That when he says Negroes must come to a point where they can say to their white brothers, we will match your capacity to inflict suffering with our capacity to endure suffering. How does the black Muslim feel about this? Do you agree with this philosophy?
It's dangerous for white people to think that Martin Luther King reflects the thinking and the reaction of a mass number of black people in this country when he says that we should turn the other cheek or love our enemies and things of that sort. A man has his God-given right to defend himself when he's attacked, and to teach Negroes that they should turn the other cheek in the face of the brutalities and atrocities practiced against Negroes in this country is actually to be a traitor to the Negroes, and especially at a time when nobody is teaching whites to turn the other cheek, or no one is teaching whites to love their enemy. It's a farce, and it's a dangerous thing for whites to think that our people in this country are following Martin Luther King. The only people who follow, white people follow Martin Luther King. White people subsidize and support, finance Martin Luther King. Black people don't finance nor support Martin Luther King.
Do you teach Muslims to engage in violence? Do you advocate violence?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us to obey the law, to respect the law, respect everyone, do unto others as we would like for them to do unto us. But at the same time, once he says that we religiously obey the law, we are within our religious rights, within our God-given rights, and within our human rights to defend ourselves whenever we are attacked. We obey the law better than police officers do. We have more respect for the police than police have for themselves.
You've been in the public limelight for quite some time of late, and particularly in the Washington area through some rioting that occurred at a reformatory there. Presumably, this was carried out by black Muslims. Are you familiar with this?
Well, yes, sir. I read those false charges that were circulated by the white press that deals in sensationalism and is well capable of putting out anti-Muslim propaganda. And insofar as those riots were concerned, when they were investigated, they found that it actually was not the Muslims. Even when the paper said that out of the 5 ringleaders, I think 2 were Muslims, but it never took the time to specify that the other 3 had to have been either Baptist, Methodist, Catholic, or some form of Christian. And the reason the religious denomination of the other 3 involved wasn't spelled out, the press practice is to blame all of these incidents on Muslims. Muslims are never involved in riots. The only time we're ever involved in any kind of violence is when we are attacked. We never initiate violence. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that we should defend ourselves. And the reaction or explosion that took place in Lawton Prison was actually Negro resentment to mistreatment there. It was not done by Muslims, but it was done by Negroes, period, who were being mistreated. But the press always puts the blame on the Muslims in order to hide their own guilt.
C. Eric Lincoln, Mr. Malcolm, in his book, The Black Muslims in America, says that the black Muslims teach and advocate racial intolerance. That you, in all of your teachings, you continuously say that the white man is a devil, he's all bad. Is this an accurate statement?
Well, I think that the white man has a guilt complex on the race issue. And he knows that what he has done to the so-called Negroes in this country has been so criminal. And had it been done to him by blacks, he feels that that he would hate the blacks who mistreated him. So today, this guilt complex makes whites think that all Negroes, as fast as they awaken and start thinking for themselves, hate him. And if he is not a devil, then the white man should take the initiative himself in proving that he's not a devil. And also, when you read the history of what the white man has done to the so-called Negro in this country, the mistreatment, the exploitation, the lynching, and the relegating us to second-class citizenship, even here in the 20th century, 1963, why these are deeds that they have done, and their deeds don't make them appear to be angels.
In your paper, Muhammad Speaks, the January 31st issue, it said here that you teach under the flag of America that the black man receives suffering, he's in slavery, and the ultimate is death. Is this advocating the overthrow of the government?
I've never heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad advocate the overthrow of any government, but that's history. If the black man wasn't being brutalized, made to suffer, and his rights taken from him here in this country, we would not have a race problem.
Are you an American?
If I was an American, there would be no race problem. If the white people in this country thought that black people were Americans, there'd be no race problem.
You're not American. Does this bring any legal question into your organization?
I don't know how you mean. The Constitution of the
You
United
reject
States...
America.
America rejects us. The Constitution of the United States classifies the Negro as 3/5 of a man. This means subhuman, or it classifies him as chattel, or property, or merchandise. So actually all the Negro in this country represents is 20 million pieces of property, stolen goods, who have been found today in possession of Uncle Sam. And the only way Uncle Sam can solve his problem now is return the stolen merchandise or stolen goods to its proper owner.
Sir, you advocate separatism, and that the black man should be isolated and put into a geographical area away from the white man. How do you intend to survive economically?
Mr. Muhammad doesn't advocate any kind of isolation. He says that since the white man has found it impossible to mix black and white people up here together in this country in peace, and there still be peaceful relations, then the best thing the white man could do, as I just said, the black man represents stolen property. And as such, the only way to solve that stolen property, if Uncle Sam pretends or professes to be repentant, is to atone by returning the stolen property to its proper owner. Let us go back to our own people. And if the white man doesn't want us to go back home to our own people, then the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that they should separate part of this country and give us a section where we can live to ourselves and develop our own industry and solve our own problems.
Where do you plan to go, sir?
I've never heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad say. In order to get that answer, you'd have to ask him.
This compares pretty much then with the Ku Klux Klan, does it not, in
No,
wanting to separate the races?
No, the Ku Klux Klan doesn't want separation. The Ku Klux Klan wants segregation. And Mr. Muhammad teaches us that segregation is that which is practiced by, that which is forced upon inferiors by superiors. But separation is done voluntarily by two equals. The white community is a separated or separate community. The Negro community is a segregated community because it's controlled from the outside by outsiders, whereas whites control their own neighborhood. So when we say separation, all Mr. Muhammad is saying is that we want to live to ourselves and control our own politics, control our own economy, control our own society. And that way we'll have some peaceful relations.
In your temple, number 7, mosque number 7, do you preach hatred of white people?
No, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us to teach our people to do unto others as we would like to have done unto ourselves. And he teaches us to love one another.
But in one of your sermons, you referred to an airplane crash in which about 120 Americans were killed. They were all white. You said this was wonderful news.
I was speaking in Los Angeles, California, before a rally that was protesting the shooting down of 7 unarmed Negroes by the white police in Los Angeles, California, and because none of the so-called white liberals did anything or showed any kind of indignation at all, we relied upon God to step in and bring justice. And when this plane fell in France with 120 white people from the state of Georgia, mind you, we couldn't consider this a coincidence. We considered it an act of God, and we were thankful that God showed his power to come to the rescue of the Negro in this country when the white man showed his inability to give Negroes justice in these kind of affairs.
Mr. Malcolm, Negroes now comprise more than 54% of the population in the District of Columbia. There are some advocates of home rule for the district. This would obviously have implications of Negroes assuming municipal powers, governmental positions of control, political control. Do you agree or disagree that the Negro leadership is capable in this country?
Usually where you find black people who have been elected, and rather I should say selected and elected, supported by black people, they produce better spokesmen. They usually represent better spokesmanship than situations where you have Negroes who are appointed by whites. These Negro appointees usually parrot and say exactly what they think the white man wants to hear them say. But a black man who really is supported by the black masses, he speaks for the black masses. He's not an Uncle Tom. The type of leadership you have today that is an appointee by the white man usually represents the 20th century form of Uncle Tom.
Are you suggesting perhaps in the future that the differences of opinion between the whites and the blacks, as you see them, could develop into outright warfare?
Well, I think the white man should be intelligent enough to realize that if something isn't done to solve an unjust problem, that those who are the victims of the problem have to take some steps to solve that problem themselves.
What do you want the white man to do?
The white man should learn to face facts. The condition of the so-called Negro in this country isn't something that we are responsible for. We were kidnapped and brought here by the white man. And 310 years of physical slavery was instrumental in bringing us down intellectually, economically, and otherwise to the level that we're on today. Now, the white man should face this as a fact. And then honest efforts should be taken to solve that problem, and the only one that the white man can deal with as a man in solving this problem is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because he'll speak to you exactly how black people feel, he'll tell you how black people think, and he'll tell you what will solve the problem for black people, not something that will that's satisfactory just to the white man and the Uncle Tom Negro himself.
What would please you to see that white people do?
Well, you'd have to go and ask the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's his mission. His mission is to solve the problem for the 20 million black people. And the only way the white man's problem will be solved is when he sits down and talks to Mr. Muhammad face to face as a man, because Mr. Muhammad is the one who represents the masses of black people in this country.
You've indicated, sir, that your objective is human dignity. What means are you using to achieve this end?
Yes, the objective and aims of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is to restore. God has raised him from our midst to restore human dignity to the black people of America, manhood and nationhood. And the method by which he does this is to reform us of our immoral habits, our immoral behavior, and our immoral thinking. And by reforming our behavior and our thinking, he makes new people out of us. That is, we think and act like a man, and we try and stand on our own feet and solve our own problems. He eliminates dope addiction, drinking, smoking, stealing, lying, cheating, gambling, all in the disrespect for womanhood. He makes us respect our own women and do what is necessary to elevate them and protect them and get others to respect them also.
You are the son of a Baptist minister, and about 20 years ago you rejected Christianity. What happened?
Well, my experience taught me that something was wrong with Christianity, because it definitely didn't practice what it preached. And so I ended up living a very wayward life until I went to prison. And while I was in prison, I heard the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad by one of my brothers who wrote to me, and I accepted it immediately and have been able to reform and rehabilitate myself as well as many others ever since.
Is there any support of your ideology by communism?
No, you'll find that communism is atheism, and you can't be a Muslim unless your religion is Islam, which means you must believe in one God and all of the prophets of God.
Would you accept money from the communists?
That's a hypothetical question. I don't know. It would be left up to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I might say this, that most Negroes who are communistically inclined are usually married to white women. And because we are against intermarriage, that particular type of Negro finds Islam a bit resentful or objects. He can't take it. So you don't find communism usually mixed up with Muslims.
How do you stand with the law?
We obey the law and respect the law better than the law does, as I told you earlier. The followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad are taught to respect and obey authority. And usually we never have any kind of situation or incident involving police unless the police themselves break their own law by attacking us.
Are you under constant surveillance?
Yes, the FBI spends 24 hours a day infiltrating or trying to infiltrate Muslims, and after we hold our religious services, they go from door to door and ask questions of persons who come to the meetings to try and harass them and frighten them. The FBI really goes way beyond the call of its duty in the religious suppression of the Muslims in this country, and we have many cases where they have tried to threaten and frighten Negroes from becoming Muslims, but it doesn't work. Today, they have a new Negro on the scene, and the more harassment and threat that the FBI or the police or anyone gives toward Islam or toward the Negro, it only makes us grow that much faster.
You've indicated, Minister Malcolm, that the NAACP is white controlled. Can you document this?
Well, the NAACP has been in existence for 54 years. They have an election for national office every year, and for 54 years they have elected a white man. For the past 24 years or 23 years, the same white man has been president of the NAACP. That's Arthur P. Spingarn. And anytime you have an organization that's supposed to represent Negroes, and those Negroes can't find a black man in 54 years that is capable of heading their organization, then that leads me to believe that either they are not developing leadership among black people, or else they are practicing discrimination themselves. They're practicing the same thing that they're accusing whites of practicing.
Why do you reject integration?
Integration won't work. The fact that also that Washington, D.C., which Eisenhower said is supposed to be the model of desegregation or the model of integration, today is 54% Negro, primarily because when the Negroes moved in, whites moved out. And this is a pattern that is followed every place in the country. Wherever a neighborhood becomes integrated, it's integrated for a little while, and then as soon as the whites see the Negroes coming in, those whites move out. They move out to a suburb, an all-white suburb. And then the Negroes who moved into what they thought was going to be an integrated neighborhood become dissatisfied, and they seek to go into the suburbs where the whites are. And what happens is you end up with a situation where the whites are running all over America trying to find an all-white neighborhood that they can live in, or somewhere where they can live to keep this Negro from, this integration intoxicated Negro from breathing down their back or breathing down their neck.
The mere fact that Negroes are moving into these areas, wouldn't that suggest that integration is working, that Negroes are being integrated into the society?
Sir, because they're not being integrated into the society. Every effort that Negroes make to force themselves upon whites, whites flee, whites run. Whites become even more hostile because they realize that you can't force them to live with someone that they don't want. If I hold a gun on you and if I hold a gun on a white person, or someone holds a gun on a white man and makes him embrace me, that's not brotherhood. That's hypocrisy. But if we embrace each other voluntarily, then that's brotherhood, that's love. Likewise, when you legislate or make laws forcing whites to accept Negroes, you're forcing whites to be hypocrites. But if you can bring about some teaching or a doctrine that will make them voluntarily embrace each other, then you're being for real. And there's no type of teaching or legislation that has been brought about in America yet that has made whites willing to accept blacks into their midst on a voluntary basis. It just doesn't work, and Washington, D.C. is one of the best examples of it.
Do you have any knowledge of the number of persons belonging to this group?
No, I've never heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad say how many Muslims there are. I know that I have heard him say that we're growing by leaps and bounds. Everywhere I go, there are Muslims. There are Muslims throughout the South, North, East, and West. We have mosques in every state in the Union. Every place where there's a Negro community, today you find a group of Muslims.
How many temples do you have here in New York?
We never give out the number of our mosques in each city. This is mosque number 7. We have mosque in Long Island, mosque in Brooklyn, and mosque in all of the boroughs.
And you're growing.
We're growing. I think even the critics of Mr. Muhammad admit that he's getting more members than the Negro Church. The Negro Church is decreasing while the Muslims are increasing.
You say you don't preach or anticipate any open violence. You never initiate it on your own, and yet I understand you have an elite guard of trained young men who act as sort of a police force around you.
No, these are the what's called the fruit of Islam. These are the brothers that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has reformed. They don't smoke, they don't drink, they don't commit acts of fornication or adultery. They respect the black woman. These are the brothers who have been taught to be men, who have taught to display human dignity. And they are represented by the press as some kind of elite guard.
What is their function, though?
Their function is men. They're men. These are the men. These are the fruits of Islam. This is the work. This is the product of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teaching.
These are graduates, then?
Not graduates. They are the final product or the best example of what the religion of Islam, as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, can do for the black people here in America.
What is your principal source of income?
Our own poor people are the ones who support the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We're not in any way supported by white benefactors, as most so-called Negro groups are, and by not looking to whites for that kind of support, it has made it impossible for them to slip in and exercise their influence or control over what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has to say. We are supported. He is supported by God. He is backed by God. He's protected by God. And he's guided by God.
You have indicated you don't want the white man's support, but suppose he offers financial assistance. Would you accept it?
Definitely, because it's not, in that sense, it's not support and it's not assistance. He would only be giving back to the black man what his forefathers robbed from our forefathers. Our people spent 310 years in physical bondage, working every day, 24 hours a day, for the white man without one day's pay. And anything that the white man gives the black man today in no way involves any kind of donation or contribution. What he is doing is giving back to the black man that which his forefathers robbed from our forefathers.
We just have a moment here. What incentive do you offer your fellow man to join this organization?
Well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad outright teaches us that we're living at the end of the world, the end of the white world, the end of the Western world, the end of the world of slavery. And the only way the black man can avoid being destroyed in that divine destruction is to get onto his own kind, come back and try and elevate himself as a man. And they do that. They know that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has the right way out.
Thank you, Minister Malcolm X, for talking with us, and we'll be seeing you again.
Yes, sir. You're welcome, sir. I'm very happy to meet both of you, and I hope you'll call again.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
And it's a shame for the President of the United States, who's the titular head of the Democratic Party, and has, I think, a two-thirds majority in both the House and the Senate, not to come on in here and do something besides talk to see that this bill is passed, if that's what he's for, and if that is what others are for.